It's the Morning Marketing Machine, here to grow your e-commerce business with proven marketing strategies and tactics, so you can run your business with machine-like precision. My name is Douglas Levin. Let's dive in. All right, so welcome everybody to Morning Marketing Machine, and I'm beyond excited today because one of my favorite people is here. So anytime I have any questions, like he's one of the people that I respect the most, especially when it comes to like the Amazon space. So for people that don't know, Liron Hirschhorn, he's been marketing online for about 12 years. He was doing the internet life insurance agency, and then 2014 he started to get involved in e-commerce, sold on Amazon. He's started several e-commerce brands that sold millions of dollars. He's pretty much like one of the main people you want to know in terms of Amazon. And now he's all, if you want to deal with like Amazon PPC or anything at all in terms of private label. And he's also right now the CEO of Incrementum Digital, which is an Amazon advertising agency. So thank you so much, Liron, for being on today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. So just, I guess for some of the people that don't know, in terms of like kind of like how you got started, I don't want to obviously take too much time because I assume a lot of people do know, but you can kind of tell a little bit in terms of like how you got going in this to kind of where you're at today.
Yeah. So I had an online business before I got started in e-commerce. In 2010, I kind of took my internet marketing skills, which was like a hobby I did on the side to try to make extra money, online while I was in banking and finance. And I married those skills with what I did, which was a life insurance agent. And so I started a website and I started writing articles and getting traffic, and basically moved from working for Mass Mutual as an agent to, driving my own leads, having contracts directly with the insurance agencies through another agency, and selling life insurance online. So I was always interested in working. I was working from home, making money online. And in 2014, I saw a course, an ad for a course on Facebook, and it was called Dropship Lifestyle. And the guy actually still teaches that course today and has like 10,000 students, and basically taught you to reach out to US based companies and see if they would drop ship their products for you. Find 4 or 5 different brands within the same niche, create a website, and do drop shipping. And that's what I did. So it wasn't complicated like shipping from China, etc. It was US based. And I did that in the fourth quarter of 2014. And through that, I learned about e-commerce, and I learned that this thing, Amazon FBA, existed, and that there was a thing called arbitrage. And that's how I got started with Amazon. And that led to arbitrage, to wholesale, to private label. And in 2015, as I started to see the opportunity of, replacing my income through Amazon, I ended up selling. I initially outsourced my insurance agency to a friend who did the same thing, who kind of mentored me when I started. I actually met him at insurance forums, insurance-forums.net. Like this guy who kind of helped mentor me in the beginning. I actually sold him the websites. Initially, I actually outsourced all my leads to him, and we split the commissions on those clients 50-50. So I still had money coming in from the insurance side while I built up the Amazon side. And then I sold him the websites, kind of went all in onto, Amazon and, e-commerce.
Awesome. Yeah. And I know I ended up, I think, first coming across from you. I know obviously you're out there all the time. Obviously with the virus, it's obviously a little different now. But since then, obviously, like with private label being a main part of your focus, I remember I saw you, I want to say it was like Rocky Mountain Conference, or like the reselling conference like years ago. You and Andy were speaking, I think, at the time. And that was
Yep.
the first time I think I saw you guys. And yeah, I mean, like, I remember even then, I was like blown away by some of the stuff that you guys were saying. I think I went ahead. You guys have a course. I think it's still out there. Like that's when I first got introduced to you, and like that stuff just kind of blew me away. I remember, and like even that was a while ago.
Yeah, I think that was 2017.
Yeah.
And I think that was maybe one of the first times I did speak, like, at an event or,
Mhm.
publicly anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. So awesome. So I know a lot of what you've been focused on lately. Like it's some of the stuff that I always pay attention to with you is outside of like the Amazon part is like the mindset pieces, which is something I know I've really been loving a lot in terms of when you talk about like the different books, how you kind of have leveled up your mindset a little bit. So I guess some that's obviously some of the stuff that I'm really interested in as well. So like I guess first thing would be like what are some of the books that you're currently reading like that have had a big impact lately on you?
Yeah, so I think there's been so a book I read, maybe I guess in a there's some books that have affected me differently, some on mindset and some just like understanding, what it takes to be successful. A book I read maybe now a year and a half or 2 years ago, The Slight Edge, I thought was really good. And basically it's simple and it's like makes sense that you would intuitively that you should know this, but the basics of the book was like the slight edge in life is basically doing small habits that you do every day and that you do continuously. And I guess the eye-opening part was that to achieve success, it's not this like one big thing that you do, right? It's the small steps that you take every day that compound over time. And I think that was part of the realization for me in reading that book. Since I've read other books, I've been sort of following I've become a little bit friendly with and interacting a lot with Jesse Itzler. His book, I read his book this year, Living with the Monks. There's a lot of really good concepts there. It's kind of like a fun read, has some humor in it, but also a lot of lessons about how he went to live for 15 days with monks in like upstate New York, and kind of like disconnected off the grid completely, and kind of like the lessons he learned there. I'm trying to think of other books. I just finished reading Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl, which was really impactful in terms of the whole concept of the book is that you can really find meaning in anything, and that your emotions, how you feel, like everything that you do is kind of like not necessarily what happens to it, but the meaning that you give something that happens to you. Along the same lines, Tony Robbins kind of talks about the same thing. It's that whatever you focus on is what you give energy to is kind of what builds up, and it's like the meaning that you give something will determine your emotions and will determine how you behave. So something negative can happen. There's an opportunity to stop and not be reactive and pause and say, what's the meaning in this? How can this obstacle make me better? And like stepping back, not being reactive. I've actually taken in the last month some Kabbalah classes, which is like Jewish mysticism, but can kind of appeal to anyone. And so I've taken 3 classes out of this like 13-week course. And the first class is all about like, being reactive versus something happening to you and pausing and saying, what a pleasure. Like, this is an opportunity to, this is an opportunity to not be reactive. And just doing that, I think is really helpful. So, I think it's little tidbits. I first went to Tony Robbins. My first event was in 2009. And then last year, I went again to UPW, but then in December, I went to Date with Destiny, which was a 6-day event. And you're really like working on yourself for 6 days every day from about 10 a.m. to 2 a.m. It's very intense. And one night, you're kind of staying up pretty much all night, writing out this poster with all your values. And obviously they give you instructions, et cetera, your values and your rules for life and your goals, your 1-year goals, et cetera. And that was really kind of life-changing for me. And like what I expected to get out of it is not necessarily what I thought I would get out of it, kind of a thing, but it made a major impact on me. So I think I wouldn't say like there's sort of, for me, one book, one thing. I think it's just sort of a cumulative effect of like, following certain people as like mentors who, also are really inspirational and positive and have a good mindset and help you kind of think about something differently, as well as a book, an event, a course, like all these things accumulate together. And you kind of end up hearing a lot of similar concepts. I'll end off with, a great course that I took in January of this year, was a course called Build Your Life Resume, which is from Jesse Itzer, and has a lot of great concepts. Just he the way he sort of articulates things makes it very easy to like turn the light bulb in your head. So a lot of people will tell you be present, but he doesn't say be present. He says be where your feet are, right? And it kind of makes you think about, the next time you're out playing with your kid, or next time you're at dinner, like, are you there, or is your head somewhere else worrying about a problem or an issue or something you're dealing with at the moment? And like concepts like that, for me, have helped me sort of like be like, okay, let me be where my feet are and just be here. And if I'm worried about something, I'll just, I'll deal with that when I can actually do something about it and think about it, as opposed to like here and now. So, a lot of these concepts, you hear, and if if you stay connected to some of this stuff and you listen over and over again, I think it starts to kind of translate into, positive impact in your life.
Yeah, and what you're saying, like kind of like at the end of that, in terms of like the idea of what like you went with Jesse Eisler, where like really be where you are. Like I know that's something that a lot of business owners and people in general have a hard time doing. I know it's something I struggle with a lot. Is
Mhm.
in terms of like there's a whole work-life balance part of it where you're like, all right, I'm here, I should be all in on this. So what do you do in terms of like what is like what's a good work-life balance to you, and like how do you work as much as you can to basically be there when you're there in terms of whatever it
Yeah.
is you're focusing
Yeah. So, I mean, I struggle with this just as much as, probably anybody else. But I also try to be, intentional about it. So there's a few things that I do now. Once a week, for 25 hours, usually on the weekend, I just disconnect completely. So no phones, no TV, no laptop, no emails, nothing, no Slack, nothing. I disconnect completely. And that's been like, you know, really, really helpful. I kind of made it a hard rule because, you know, it was easier for me to make it a hard rule and be more disciplined about it than like, like I'll have my phone with me, but I won't check it. And I just put my phone away. And like making it sort of a harder sort of like rule, like I put my phone in another room, I don't touch anything, has made it easier to actually do it. So during that time, it's, focused on family time. It's focused on reading. It's focused on myself, meditation, things like that. And that's been really, really good for balance. Generally on Sundays, I might do some work, but trying to also spend more sort of family time and be balanced. But there are certain times where I'll remember these concepts. So I'll be at dinner with my phone and I'll remember like be where your feet are, and I might put my phone away. It doesn't mean that I'm perfect every time. There's still plenty of times where I'm sitting at dinner and I'm in the middle of something, and I'll have my phone with me, and I need to respond to something or whatever, or I feel like I need to respond to something, I won't be as present as I'd like to. But these concepts are, or these, I feel like once I heard some of these concepts, they're like in my head, and I'll notice more and I'll be aware more, and that that makes a difference. Another one of the concepts Jesse talks about is called Remember Tomorrow. And basically, when you're making a decision, think about how you're going to feel about it tomorrow. Ray Dalio talks about the same concept, except he calls it first order consequences and second order consequences, right? Like
on.
the immediate effect. And, that's been helpful in terms of like diet, and exercise. Like, how will I feel about this decision tomorrow? If I go exercise now, how will I feel about that? If I don't exercise now, how will I feel about that? If I eat this, how will I feel about it? If I don't eat this, how will I feel about it? And again, I think you need balance there, because I think it's like okay to allow yourself, to, I think as long as you have an awareness, right? I think it's like when you're doing things out of an awareness, like if I'm eating ice cream, I'm very aware that I'm eating ice cream, and it's not something I'm doing at every meal or every day or every night. I'm not going to it for like an emotional reason. I'm like, hey, it's Sunday afternoon. It's a sunny day. I'm going to have some ice cream. But like, I'm aware, right? So I think it's like I think the awareness around what you're doing is more important than what you're doing. Like, it's not that I don't allow myself to have the ice cream. It's that if I do allow myself to have the ice cream, I recognize that, this is like not something I'm doing every day. I am also allowed to live, enjoy my life a little bit. I'm not going to die. And, the next meal is going to be clean, and, I'm going to exercise too. Um, so I think I think some of these concepts are like in my head and allow me to be, a little bit more balanced. I think it's super difficult in today's world. We're all distracted, and all the systems, all the things out there are designed to keep us distracted. Social media very much is like, the whole thing is designed to keep you addicted to it. And you really have to fight. I've done some things on my phone, where I've moved some apps to the second screen. I've toggled around the apps that I have and put them in different order, because we're so used to just going like clicking on Messenger or clicking on Facebook or Instagram or these apps. And so sometimes I just shift them around. So it's not, so I have to think about it a little bit more to find the app. So I think there's things you could do. I think you need to put those things in place to kind of fight off the, the fighting off the systems that are designed to keep you, distracted, because, the Apple and Facebook and, and Amazon and Google, these, they have the smartest engineers in the world that are working on keeping you hooked. And, if you want to accomplish things and you have goals, then you need to put some things in place to, to fight it.
Yeah, and that's gets back to the idea. I think you know Brian Bowman as well, and I think he's one of the people that told me what he does in terms of trying to combat like those kinds of things that come up is he'll do something similar, and it's something I've tried to do like because you can make your smartphone basically a dumb phone,
Mm.
so there's nothing on there, or you can turn it off. I think Deep Work is one of the ones where they talk about the idea of actually like getting rid of all distractions. Like if you're working, and that's what really happens with social media in general is that like or if you're supposed to be working on something but you're like, well, I've got all these other things that I could be thinking at, you're not giving the time to whatever the project is. So yeah, that's definitely something I'm looking at as well in terms of like what can I do, remove all distractions, to really get it done. And
Yeah.
that's kind of gets into the idea of like, all right, so if you're trying to be productive in a day, like what steps do you usually take like during the day so you can get the most out of your day?
Yeah, and I would say also experiment. I do this from time to time, not as much as I should, but experiment with like if you have an iPhone, you probably do this on any other phone too. But experiment with going to your settings, and you can actually put your phone in grayscale mode, so it's like black and white, and it doesn't look fun to go hit any apps or anything. Like everything is so colorful and bright, and so experiment with that. As far as what I do for my day, some tips are: number one, I think it's good to look at the day ahead the night before. So trying to see, okay, what's on my calendar for the next day, and what are some of the things that I want to accomplish. And I think you want to take that to-do list that you might have that has 50 items on it or 30 items, or and I use apps, like I use Things to kind of brain dump and put things that I want to do. But I think it's taking, like, I have a whiteboard here, and I'll write on the whiteboard, you know 1 to 4 things that I want to accomplish that day. And I feel like that's, a lot easier to tackle. And at the end of the day, look, okay, I accomplished 2 of these things. I accomplished, 3, I accomplished 1. Like, and I can look back at the day and say, okay, and instead of taking that huge, crazy list, just focus on a few key things that you want to say, if I accomplish this today, then I know it's been a good day. And, part of that concept also, um, is a concept called no 0 days. And the concept, I did a podcast, my own podcast about this concept. One of the first episodes about this idea of no zero days, and you can go to Google, to Reddit, and search for this. There's like a post that's like a big post from like 6 years ago about a guy who's responding to somebody else who gives him this concept. And the concept of no zero days is like, at the end of the day, you don't want to have a zero on the scoreboard. Like, did you do one thing? Did you exercise? Okay, you put that up as a one. Maybe you didn't accomplish anything in your work life, but you accomplished something in your health or your family. Did you spend time with your family? Did you do at least one thing? I think that's helpful to kind of, take some of the pressure off. But I think in terms of like accomplishing things, like today, for example, um, I actually need to possibly hire someone, and I'm talking to a few people, and like that's a big thing, on my mind today, and like something I want to accomplish in terms of having some conversations and getting closer to, being able to do that, right? And that will be a big step in kind of moving my business forward, an important step. So I try to think of, a few things, one to four things that I want to accomplish, and write those down, and then kind of tackle that. And again, it kind of depends on the day. Sometimes I already have, 5, 6 things on the calendar, and I know like those are the things I need to do today. And sometimes I have more time, and I look to accomplish more things that I need to do. I think the other thing that I'm getting that I'm working on now is planning out the month in advance, the 6 months in advance, the year in advance of the things that I want to accomplish and the things I want to do, and actually put stuff on the calendar ahead of time so that, my calendar doesn't get filled up with stuff that comes along the way. And it's like, if I already have things that are important that I want to do that are on the calendar, then when I get that, request for something, and maybe it's not that important, I might say, hey, my calendar's already booked, but I'm filling up the calendar first with the things that are, important to me. So that's something I'm working on now. I'll actually show you here. I'll bring this 1 second. So this is a program that I'm in, and it's called the Big Ass Calendar Club. And actually, what I'm working on this week is actually, filling out. This is like all the things I want to do. You first do a brain dump of like all the things I want to do every day, kind of like goals and things I want to do with my family, whatever. And then you work backwards to put those things on the calendar. So that's something I'm working on now. I've never been like super structured, in my life in general. But I kind of realize I need some structure and some more structure to, accomplish more things.
Did you ever read the book, The 12-Week Year?
No, I've heard of the book, but yeah, you're essentially trying to accomplish in 12 weeks, right? What you would think
Yeah,
in a year.
it's kind of similar in terms of the idea of working backwards and figuring out what are the most important things that you want to get done. Like they're obviously looking at it from being very detail oriented to get it done in 3 months, but it's essentially the same kind of idea. And it's, I know something like the idea of a roadmap in general is sound like something similar to what you're trying to do. Like, and this gets back to the idea. Have you read the one thing from Gary
Yeah.
Keller as well, where he says
Yeah.
like, what's the biggest thing you're going to do? Like that's kind of what sounds a little what you're trying to do as well. Like focus on those big, like those, can't remember the words, but the most important thing that's going to move the needle forward for you
Yeah.
in life going forward, right?
Yeah. There's a quote I heard this year, that is, the most important thing is to keep the most important thing the most important thing. Right? Like if you have a goal, the most important thing is to keep that front and center, as the most important thing. And, I think sometimes people get tripped up by the one thing sort of concept. The one thing doesn't mean you're only, working on one thing. I think we have different buckets of our life that we want to focus on, health, relationships, business, career, and then maybe another bucket with like other things, charity or things that are important to you that you want to do, volunteer, whatever. So things that are important to you, travel, whatever it is. And I think you want to focus like on, okay, what's the one thing, this month or or today, or this week that, that I'm going to do. And I don't think we can be balanced every day. I think there are some days where you're going to, where you're going to work, and you might work till, 10 o'clock at night or 11 o'clock at night. And there are some days where you could say, hey, 6 o'clock, I'm done. 5 o'clock, I'm done. I'm disconnecting. I'm going to spend time with family. And there's going to be some days where, it's a weekend or whatever, you take a day off and you just spend all that time. So I don't think you need to be balanced every single day. But I think when you look at your week, when you look at your month, you want to think about, yeah, how can I bring balance to this week to, focus on all the areas. There are studies that are done around billionaires and who are older in their life, and asking them about the biggest thing they regret. And the biggest thing they regret is like not spending time with their family, their relationships, like those kind of things. I think you can, if you think about people's funerals, they never talk about what the person achieved so much, right? Like, or how much money the person made in their life. It's like, what did the person give, right? How helpful they were to other people. The people will tell stories, right, of like a friend, or like, okay, this person, like, I called them in the middle of the night when I needed them with a flat tire, and they came to help me. Like, this was the kind of person. Because I think deep down we know that the purpose of our life is to, give and serve others, and like that's, ultimately a lot of the purpose of, I think, why we're here. And so if you think about that, and that's something that's like, for me, on my mind, then I don't want to go through life you know just trying to accomplish goals without thinking of, okay, what are they going to say at the eulogy about the kind of person that you are. I haven't done this, but um, you know um, the idea of sort of like writing out your eulogy, I think, can help you bring that into now. I haven't gone there yet. It's not an easy subject,
Right.
to go to. But these are kind of the things that are on my mind, as I think about like what I want to do and, accomplish in this world. And, part of the reason why I enjoy putting out content and also talking about this kind of mindset stuff is, I think it can have a big impact on other people. And, I get a lot of sort of joy by being able to, if I can impact one person's life, then that's really meaningful.
Right. Yeah, and I know it's something I think all business owners have like struggled with all the time, and and I will say, like, what you've said over time has had a big impact in my life in terms of the mindset pieces. Like, um, I know that I recently I've been looking back at my work life balance, and it sucks, and like it's something that I'm trying to work on myself, and like I was talking to Alfred Fontanez, and he and I was kind of in awe in terms of like he's very successful. He does e-commerce, and he he looks at it the same way you do in terms of I'm gonna take time away from business because I'm gonna focus on my kids, and I want them to think of the good times they had when they're 30 or 40 or anything like that, because that's ultimately like why he's doing it, right?
Right.
And I know, like, at least for me, but I assume a lot of other business owners as well. You get into that kind of like hamster wheel effect where like you're like, all right, because you're in charge of your own business, right? If you're the business owner, so you can work however long you want, but you always like, all right, I've got this other thing I got to do, or I got this to do, or Amazon screwed me again, so I got to do this, right? And that ends up being your focus when you kind of forget why you started in the first place, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think as a business owner, you could probably fill up 24/7 with work if you wanted to. There's always things I could be doing, like from a marketing perspective. There's always things I could, okay, I'm done what I'm doing. I can go reach out to influencers. I can go, do this. I could think about the next product. I could think about, how better can I market this? Like, I think you can fill your time 24/7. At the same time, I found, for me, since I started doing this disconnect, this is probably now, 2 months of disconnecting once a week for 25 hours. I have not found a decline in my productivity, right? Like I'm still accomplishing things. And I think it's also a matter of like we allow the time, we allow sort of like the things to fill up into the amount of time we give them. And yeah, I think you want to remember like, first of all, I think you want to remember, why are you even doing this business, right? Like you're doing it, if you're going to spend 24/7 on it, you almost like, you can have a job in a sense, where you work 9 to 5 and at 5 o'clock, you just like shut down. And like, I mean, in some ways, my wife works for a company. She's a manager at a company, and she delivers for them. She works hard for them. She gets on her laptop at 9 o'clock, and she's supposed to work till 5:30. Sometimes she works till 6, but like, that's it. At 6 o'clock, she shuts down the laptop, and it's not on her mind anymore. And like, in some ways, I like envy that, right? Because like, she doesn't get to worry, sort of about what happens, after 6 o'clock, because it's the company. She gets paid, she gets a paycheck, she does her job well. And I think that to some extent, there's a huge benefit. So if you're going to allow your business to consume 24/7, and you're not getting more out of life because of it, then like, you almost might as well be happier just like, having a job. I think one of the beautiful things of entrepreneurship is it's supposed to give you the freedom to, especially for those of us in e-commerce, and that are not tied to an office or a physical location. I mean, we can work from anywhere, we can work whenever we want, like, but it's a double-edged sword, right? Just because you can work whenever you want doesn't mean you should be working, all the time. So I think, work, there's some people who say that work-life balance is, a myth. And I think sometimes when you're starting a business, you're not going to be as balanced as you want to. And I think accepting that is okay. And then saying, hey, I'm going to grind for, for 2 years, for 3 years, I'm going to work more. But I still think you need to take, time out to, to focus on the stuff. And the best time to really grind and do that is like when you're young, and you're in your 20s, and you don't have those responsibilities of a family and the other stuff. And in that case, you should be sort of in balance in terms of like working really hard on your business. And at a certain point, you probably want to pull back somewhat.
Yeah, and I think some of that comes back to like when I was talking earlier about the 12-week year, how they do it specifically is, and this was a reverse from how I had done it before. Was I always looked at, okay, here's what I want my business to be, but what they kind of say is like, well, how do you want your life to be first, right? Like, so what like in say 15 years, 20 years, like when you're looking back, like how do you want your life to be? Like, what do you want your family to be like your health, your spirituality, like all of those kinds of things, and then you work your business based off of that. I think too many people in general, when they're looking at it, they just like, I gotta grind, I gotta grind, I gotta grind, but you kind of forget like the whole point, I guess,
Yeah.
as it kind of goes to it.
Yeah. And, I think it's a good point. And I think in business, like there are things like we have to do. We have emails, we have to respond. We have this, we have that, we have to, and we don't give ourselves those same kind of deadlines in our life, right? Like, I have to do this in my business, so I'm not going to focus on my health, or I have to do this, so I'm not going to focus on my family. But I think if you kind of make those other goals sort of just as important and put them on the calendar and schedule them in, that's when you kind of start to say like, okay, it is possible to focus on, on all these things. And, I think everyone has their sort of balance for what's good. Like, it's important to me to exercise, but I don't do it every day. I try to do, 3 times a week. I try to exercise because I know it makes me feel better, and I know I'm at least doing it. And yeah, I'm not, let's say, there are some people that I look at and I envy, and like, wow, like this person exercises an hour every single day. That's pretty impressive. At the same time, I think it's also important for all of us to not be in that comparison mode. I think it's so easy, especially with social media and Instagram, and everybody's life looks like it's perfect. And it's not. Everyone faces challenges, and we put the highlights of the best things that are happening in our life on social media, we're not putting the things, when you're sitting by yourself feeling, depressed or, anxious, or about how am I going to figure this out? How am I going to overcome this challenge? How am I going to, bash my head in the wall? I know, you messaged me last week, you were dealing with some issue with Amazon, right?
Yep.
You're not putting that on social media and to say you might actually, right? But like most people, right, want to show like I'm successful and whatever. They're not putting that on social media. Like I feel like shit right now because I'm bashing my head in the wall with Amazon or my relationship or whatever. And you're seeing everybody's highlights. So, I also try not to put an immense amount of pressure on myself to compare, because I know that, what you're seeing on social media is like an illusion. A lot of life is an illusion, if you want to take it to another, spiritual level, but,
Right.
what you're seeing is an illusion. So you need to like, just compare yourself to yourself. If your goal is to exercise 3 times a week, then make yourself proud and hit your goal. If your goal is to work on your business, for the next 2 hours and time block and accomplish something and take action, then make yourself proud of yourself by reaching your own goals and not comparing yourself to other people. Because I think it's why we see studies that social media actually makes people more depressed. And, at the same time, I think these are amazing technologies and they provide amazing opportunity. And, I have family overseas that gets to see pictures of my daughter because of Facebook. I really appreciate that. I think there's a lot of good in these, in sort of the big four. Obviously, Amazon, right? I make my living off Amazon. Um, Google, and I have my email there, and like Facebook and social media. That's where I have an audience and I connect with people. And like, I think there's a lot of good there, but I think it's also um, sort of protecting yourself from the downside, all the negatives. Like I try to be in groups with people that are positive. There's so many. I now sort of, I used to get into arguments with people on social media, like I'm done with that, like it's the waste of my energy. I'm not going to convince anybody else. It's only making your ego feel better when you're kind of trying to be right and trying to get your point across. So I'm trying to learn how to pull out of the negative aspects and like keep the good benefits out of it, connecting with people, that I want to be around. I think the people you surround yourself with is really important. So, these are kind of like just how I try to leverage the good things that are out there. And I try to, not participate in all the negativity. I think there's more negativity, now than ever, with just like, the political climate and COVID and people arguing about masks and like such nonsense. Like, you know, I don't want to be arguing with somebody about wearing a, if you should wear a mask or not. Like, I'm not going to convince you. And even following the news, like I don't really follow the news very much. I feel like, I take this concept that I heard, like if something really important happens, it'll trickle down to me and I'll find out. Somebody will post on social media, I'll hear about it. And like, I just try not to pay attention to it. I don't think, I think, entrepreneurs, and if you're in business, you have a lot more control by focusing on your business, focusing on your customer, than by focusing on like what the government is doing for you.
Yeah, yeah, and what you were saying in terms of like the whole positive versus negative mindset. I mean, that's I think a lot of times that's the name of the game in terms of like moving your business forward and in general your life, right? I mean, like I look back at some families, some people I know in the past when they've had that kind of like negative mindset of the why me, it's everybody else's fault but mine, like those kinds of a thing. Like that definitely I know it would drag me down all the time, right? Like, and that gets back to the idea you were saying, like if you can, I know you said it too, like you are the 5 people that you're surrounded by. It's like the same idea, right? You want to
Yeah.
surround yourself with positive people, like if you look at the successful people, the people that are happier in life in general. I mean, they're looking at things and what can I do in a positive mindset versus, oh, this terrible thing happened to me, right? And it's going
Yeah.
to bring me down for years or anything like that.
Yeah, I'm actually wearing a shirt that I got from a book signing from Marie Forleo. This book is called Everything is Figure Outable. And again, this is sort of a concept I picked up from this book, again, I think it's these little concepts that once you pick them up and like you just realize that every problem, every challenge is figure outable, and like, yeah, putting yourself in sort of the victim mentality is not gonna, it's not gonna solve the issue for you. I will say that, I do sort of empathize with, there are people that are in terrible situations that are truly victims, that think, I can thank God I've never, had to experience being abused or, just, some of the things that you really are a victim, especially kids or, even adults, right, that are subject to certain things. So, I don't want to say like, hey, you should have no excuses, but, I will say that staying in that victim mentality and not trying to take any action around it, if you can, it is not going to get you, further ahead. And that, ultimately, I just think this concept of everything is figure outable can really help you when you have a challenge and you don't see a way beyond the challenge. You don't see, how do I overcome this? How do I get through this? And, some concepts like, this too shall pass. And even, sort of every success is temporary, every failure is temporary, even some of the biggest businesses that were on the Dow 30, over the last 100 years, a lot of them are gone. Technology has, replaced them, right? Like all that success was also temporary. You look at all the brick and mortar stores, that are now going under, right? Because of like the changing world. You look at, New York City taxi cabs that, I remember years back, like in the 90s, they would auction these medallions, taxi medallions, and they would go for over $1 million. And now they're, maybe worth 100,000 or something, or, a lot less because of Uber. Like every success, everything is temporary. And so, I think it's, these are like the little concepts that, I've picked up in my journey and my personal struggles, failures, successes, that, help me sort of push through and realize like there is a solution, and asking good questions, I think, is a good way to come up, with solutions, with good answers.
Yeah, and this kind of gets back to another question I've got for you too, in terms of like, I would say everyone's always going to have troubles that they're going through in terms of like, all right, I can't get past this point or whatever it is, or sometimes you're just like you're not as productive as you like to be for whatever reason, right? So like, what have you done in the past, like either when you're in a funk for whatever reason, or you've got some kind of bottleneck, some kind of stumbling block where you're like, it's just not quite working for me. Like, what have you tried and what's been successful for you to kind of get over those?
Yeah. First of all, I think the concept of writing things down, of what you want to happen in a situation where you have a stumbling block. I had this year in a situation in a partnership, um, something I needed to get out of, unwind, and saw no way out of. Um, and I had a coach actually to help me during that time. Um, and the thing he told me is like, he's like, Liran, you got to get everything out of your head. You got to get everything out of your head. You can't let this bottle up in your head. You got to write down, number one, everything that happened. And then, what's your ideal scenario of what you want to happen. And you got to write that down. And that was like the beginning of figuring out, and actually things worked out better than I thought they would. In that case, I was able to push through. I got some good advice from a few different people. I got advice from an attorney that I know that was really helpful to me. I got advice from a coach, and um, but I think writing everything down and getting out of my head of sort of like everything helped, help sort of like alleviate that. I think in other aspects, um, Derek Sivers is another guy like that I follow. And I've listened, if you haven't listened to his podcast, he's been on a lot of other people's podcasts recently, and he puts it on his own. So you should look him up, Derek Sivers, and listen to his podcast. And one of the things that he says is, you know, if you say you value something, but you don't do it, then you don't really value it. You want to say you value it, you want to think you value it, but you don't. Like, I like to say that I'm a meditator. I practice transcendental meditation. But if I go 2-3 days in a row and I haven't meditated, I'll think you're not really meditating. Like, you say you like to say, it makes you feel good to say that you meditate. But if you don't really do it, you don't really value it. You like to say that you read. You like to say that you want to exercise. You like to say that you want to work on your business. But if you're just saying this stuff, I think some of the stumbling blocks, there are people who want to write a book, but they never take the time to sit down and do it. And I think it's asking yourself, do I really want to write this book? Or what am I afraid of in writing this book? Am I afraid of nobody will read it? Am I afraid it's going to suck? Am I afraid I'm not going to be able to do it? Do I really want, am I really a reader? If I am, then I should be reading every week at least. If not every day, I should be reading every week. Mm-hmm. So I think it's thinking about, what are the things that you say you value? And then do you actually value them by looking? And I think that also helps you, overcome those things that you should be doing. I think so many of us know, like if you look at, we, I think it's not a secret as to what it takes to, let's say, lose weight, right? But it's a major struggle for a lot of people. And we know, like, if you eat some meals, you replace with salad, and some meals you stop drinking soda, you drink water instead, you cut out junk food, like some simple things, right? Forget about like going hardcore into some diet, just like some simple things you could implement in your life, and not going to the fridge at midnight, like certain things, right, that will help you lose weight. And then incorporating a couple of times a week some exercise, some walks, some things like that, right? We all know what it takes, but it's a struggle for a lot of people because they say they value their health, or they say they value losing weight, but they may not actually value it. I think it's also, as I talk and say this, I think it's also understanding what your value is. Why are you doing the things you want to do? Like, do I want to lose weight so that I look good and I look a certain way, which I think is okay, it's fine, like, to feel good about yourself. But I also think it's like, do I want to lose weight so I can be healthy and be there for my kids, for the next 50 years, 60 years? Like, I think that's a lot more powerful, as to some of the reasons why you want to be healthy, and exercise. And so I think, like, as far as like these stumbling blocks, I think it's writing things down, journaling, getting out of your head, and then also like asking good questions on what do I really value, what do I really want, and then doing the things that you want. My wife said to me she said to me a couple days ago, I haven't been consistent with my supplements this week. Like, then you don't really value taking supplements. Right? Like, I mean, it's kind of an annoying answer to give someone, but but if you think about it that way, then you're like, wait a second, but I do value it, so I'm going to go take it.
Right. Yeah. And really that gets back to the idea of whenever you're trying to look at like what is it that you really value, like you're at the end of the day, you're alone with yourself, like in your head. So you have to be honest with yourself, right? It's like, okay, I'm saying I want this, but my actions are saying I don't. So do I really, or can I be straight with myself here? Because, like, okay, if I don't want it, then I'm kidding myself, and let me find out what really does matter to me, and that I can focus on, right?
Yeah.
That's ultimately what I think it, like, to really level up, like, be honest with yourself more than anything.
Yeah, absolutely. Which, I think if you take that and say, what do I really want, and try to get, I think a lot of us don't know what we really want. It's kind of like, we don't know, like, even as I think about it, like, what I really want, like, and getting crystal clear about what you want, I think is really, really important. And then taking the next step and writing down what you really want, I think just makes it, I think it becomes more powerful because you are taking something that's sort of abstract and putting it into in a physical sort of realm by writing it down. And I think, people talk about like the law of attraction and sort of manifesting, and I don't necessarily believe that just because I sit in a room and say, I want $1 million means that I'm going to get $1 million. But I do think that if I start writing down what I want and I'm very specific about it, that subconsciously I'm telling my brain to go focus and take action around those things that will get me there. And I think that's part of the process of, the reason why this program, the big ass calendar club was developed was just that, right? It's putting down the things that you want to do and in writing and on a calendar. And I think that's sort of the beginning of like attracting the things you want in your life, by writing down and then taking action around them.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. I know that we're kind of getting to the end here, but I know obviously I've had you on here, and it's great talking about mindset, and I love talking about it. But obviously, you're also an Amazon expert, so I wanted to at least get into a little bit of that before
Yeah.
I'll let you go here. So obviously, like we were just talking about, like there's a big change now with the negative ASINs, right? So how do you think that's going to affect things moving forward? And what do you think specifically people should watch out for in terms of like so that they can get the best out of Q4 as it comes up?
Yeah. So let's address the Q4. I think this will be an amazing Q4 for e-commerce in general, because people you're not gonna see what you typically see, which is December malls are filled with thousands of people and it's crammed and there's lines, and Walmart just announced that they're going to close on Thanksgiving this year for like the first time in a few years since they started opening up on Thanksgiving. I don't imagine you're going to see the lines for Black Friday at stores, right? Like with people rushing in like crazy, right? Just because of the social distancing aspects and all that, which means that business has to go somewhere. People, I think despite sort of like an economy that's been affected by COVID, I think people are still going to be buying gifts and still going to be buying toys, and there's still Christmas and there's still holiday season, and people are still going to spend, and they're going to do that more so this year than ever online. And I think the majority of that business, or half of that business online, is going to start on Amazon. And so that presents a great opportunity for just more demand on Amazon for products. That being the case, so I think it's a great opportunity. I think some of the things to watch out for are going to be Amazon's capability to handle all that business and volume. We saw, earlier this year when they sort of prioritized essential items, that other products were not being shipped out for a month. And if you were able to do like merchant fulfilled, either from your own location or through a third party, logistics warehouse, I think that was an advantage. And I think if that sort of time taught you a lesson and you didn't have a 3PL set up, you shipped all your products into Amazon FBA, then you sort of cannot rely solely on FBA, and you need to have a plan for how you're going to fulfill your product. Should you be limited on the amount of units you can send into the warehouse, because they're putting more restrictions on that, especially on new products. There's like a 200 unit, limit on new products. And that doesn't get restricted, I think, for like at least 4 weeks until after, you sent in the product. It gets sort of reset as to how many units you can send in. So I think the ability to do merchant fulfilled is going to be really, really important, and having a third party warehouse that can also replenish for you into Amazon is going to be really important. So that's sort of like something you should be prepared for. On the Amazon ad side, there's been a lot of new ad types that have rolled out in the last year, and I think being on top of that and taking advantage of those ad types is an advantage in your business, because when other people are not taking advantage of a particular inventory of ads, the cost per click, the bidding, is less competitive. I'm seeing bids from 2 to 10 cents on sponsored display product targeting. It doesn't drive as much traffic as I would want, but it's generating sales. Video ads, sponsor brand video ads have been really effective. Click-through rate, conversion rates are generally better on the video ads than on um, sponsored product ads or other sponsored brand ads. So I think taking advantage of that is really powerful. You don't need fancy videos. We're creating, slideshow videos for our clients using Biteable.com, like a $100 a month or so software tool where we can create unlimited like slideshow and text videos. So there's sort of no excuse not to be able, if you have brand registry, to run that. And the negative ASIN targeting is something that's just rolling out now. So you might not have that in your account yet. But negative ASIN targeting is basically in auto campaigns. Amazon, part of the auto targeting is Amazon putting your product on other people's pages under sponsored products related to this item. And up until now, if there were certain ASINs they were targeting for you in that auto campaign that were not effective, you could not tell the Amazon algorithm to eliminate them, to not continue to target those ASINs. And now they're rolling out ASIN product targeting. So I think that'll be, even more useful to cut wasted ad spend. So there's a lot of exciting things happening with Amazon advertising, including I'm seeing it be very powerful for new products to rank organically and launch using an aggressive advertising approach. Being able to get ranked for very competitive keywords by generating a lot of sales through those keywords with ads. So a lot of exciting things. I think by having a good understanding of it and taking advantage of it and then being able to implement all the ad types, brand registry is kind of like a key component to a lot of it because it gives you those new ad type options. Kind of puts you in a good position to be able to drive, traffic. And then obviously the other part of the equation is conversions, which is, you need to have an offer and put your offer out in a way that becomes compelling to people, as not just on its own, but also as it compares to the competition. So obviously a good listing, good copy, great images, A+ content, all those things are helpful. Video, all those things are helpful. Your price, reviews, all that's going to impact how well any of the traffic you send, paid or organic, is going to perform. So, you want to sort of focus on the two sides of the, equation in terms of getting sales, which is, traffic and conversion.
Yes. I said, and I would say for everyone, listen to what he just said because he's who I pay attention to, and he's Liron's the one who handles my ads. Like I trust him with everything on that side, and there's no reason not to have brand registry at this point. If you got a product, there's IP Accelerator out there at this point, which can get you brand registry in like 2 weeks now, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
definitely do that.
And there's also a program that's like a trademark waitlist, where if you already have a trademark that you applied for, you didn't go through the IP Accelerator, and typically it's like 7 to 9 months to get approved for a trademark or for it to go live, and only then you can apply for brand registry. If you didn't go through IP Accelerator, now there's like a wait list. There's like a link that allows you to put in the fact that you have a trademark application pending. I've seen some posts on social media where people are submitting that and within a week also getting brand registry. So Amazon is, I think, rightly so and smartly trying to get people more brand registry faster, because it means you can utilize more of the advertising, spend more money on ads with Amazon, and helps Amazon sort of grow their business, helps you sell more also. I agree that getting brand registry now is a very sort of low barrier to entry, because as long as you're know how to go about IP Accelerator program or that trademark waitlist program, you can get it.
That's awesome. So thank you so much for being on. I also wanted to ask as we kind of end here. So how can people that want to learn more about you learn more about you?
Sure. So the Amazon advertising agency website is incrementumdigital.com. You can also reach out to me directly. It's Liran at incrementumdigital.com. But I also have a podcast and a Facebook group called E-commerce Mindset. So there's an E-commerce Mindset Facebook group, E-commerce Mindset podcast. And you can also just send me a friend request. I'm mostly active on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn and Instagram too, but I'm mostly active as far as like posting content on Facebook. So yeah, I would love to connect with I think anybody that's following you and your show and is listening to, if you've gotten to this point, an hour about mindset, then probably a great person to connect with.
Awesome. Yeah. So thank you again, Liron. And I know I'm a part of Liron's Facebook group, and I've been on his podcast. He's an amazing wealth of information. He's one of the really genuine, great guys in the Amazon space. So I'll say, like, check him out. Check out everything he has to do. He's great with what he does. So I will talk to everyone next time. And thank you again, Liron, for being on. And I'll talk to you guys. All right. See you
Thank
guys.
you.